Greetings and hello. My name is Sean. This is day 21 of my 2020 VEDA challenge. What is VEDA? Vlogging every day in the month of April. It's 21 days! So, we have officially surpassed last year by one day. Uh, this is probably going up very early on the 22nd just because I recorded it. I was doing something in the evening, recorded this, took a little time to get it up. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I kind of want to, I think I hinted at, I want to probably review a few more things. So today's plan is to talk about at least the first two books in the series that I actually think is really informative. If you want any kind of history of role playing games, gaming companies in the tabletop arena in general, and that would be volumes 1 and 2 of Designers and Dragons. So this is book came out, started coming out, I think, in about 7 years ago. From Evil Hat by Shannon Appelkline. Um, I first saw it at my local game store, didn't know what it was, didn't think about it. Then I had friends tell me, oh, it's about the history of role playing game companies. Still didn't do anything with it. Then I was basically pet sitting for a friend, and I ended up pretty much burning through and borrowing the 4 volumes. Like I said, these are the first two, and going over it. Now, it's a lot of information. It's very well researched, very well divided, because basically they cover 10 years of companies. Basically, if a company was founded, say, in the volume one in the 70s, they do a history of it. They don't just do their history in the 70s, they do the history of from their beginning to their end, or if they're still going, talking about what was relevant at the time when the book came out, which was 2013. So it's a really good resource if you're ever interested in any kind of the history of companies. It's also, and it doesn't just focus on just the games they made. It will talk about other projects that were related to games that people developed and so forth and so on. Like, for example, in the D&D section, the TSR section, they talk about their computer games and the various comic books that were done that tied into it. And probably, honestly, in the first book, I would say, what was it? Yeah, so it's like I would definitely say, how big is the section on done? Yeah, basically the entire about of the book, they devote about 100 plus pages of a full quarter of the book is the history of TSR from the founding until its decline in the late 90s, and then they talk about in future books they'll talk about the history of Wizards of the Coast where D&D story kicks up again, and they're really good. They're really good resources. So they cover the 70s into the 80s, and I recommend them if you have any kind of interest in the history of tabletop role playing games. You find out some interesting things. Now, I have other stuff I've read on it. It's another book I might talk about before the month's out. That's really a fundamental history of where D&D came from, and that it's a little bit more dry than this. This one's informative. I keep saying that over and over again, but it is. It's nice to have it sort of at your fingertips. I found it immensely useful in some stuff I was working on as a tabletop scenario that involved, well, to put it short and bluntly, I actually have the game over there, so I might talk about it more then, but I needed to know some history about early third-party companies that did D&D supplements in the UK. I didn't need to know a specific company, but I needed to know if they existed or not, and this book helpfully provided that information. And again, these first 2 volumes are a lot of the companies that I grew up with. Everything from Palladium to TSR to I think White Wolf is 90s, but you have things like Mayfair, Artel Saurian, a lot of companies that are gone, a lot of companies that didn't make it out of the 70s, some that made it into the 80s and died, some that made it into the 80s, into the 90s, and then died. Some that are still going till today. Um, like I said, I recommend them. There are going to be links down below to pick up at least the first two volumes on Kindle. Uh, like I said, the first volume is the 70s. Uh, a quarter is devoted to TSR. So, and the history of where D&D came from and so forth and so on. It's a very good place to start if you want to go deeper into any kind of history of companies. And again, a lot of this information has been culled from interviews and public materials and internet resources. So you don't necessarily have to go to Wikipedia or Google and try and track some of this stuff down. It's in here. Has a very good index, so you can kind of find what you need. They also have excellent bibliography, so you can pick up everything. Yeah, so recommend these books. So right now, like I said, there'll be links down below to at least the first two volumes, and from there you can find the other two. I don't actually own volumes 3 and 4 because I bought these at a time when I had a little bit more money, and I have not had a chance to get my hands on the other two volumes. I will now that I have a place I can put them on my shelf and have them at my fingertips. So that's sort of the review for day 21. Now, I have some other stuff going forward. I actually took time today to lay out plans for some the future episodes of VEDA this month, and we'll see where we go with that. What else? Today's been an okay day. Just dealing with a lot of stuff. Dealing with just, making sure I can cover everything. Accidentally burned through a bunch of data on my phone. My phone is actually not in the best of conditions. If you can get a look at that, you can kind of see the screen is all messed up and it's starting to go. It's one of the things I have to replace at some point. I have to basically order a new phone. It's going to be a pain in my ass, but we'll see where we end up with that. So that's what I got for today. Yeah. So I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you're feeling well. And until next time, be seeing you, my friends.